Yeah, there is that trade-off, right? Is that getting into GridWorld early gets them used to GridWorld, gets them into it, gets them using it, but it is easy to get old pretty fast. And I think that's one reason to try to find variety in that. And that's one thing we're going to be trying to talk about as we talk about integrating further beyond this, very basic introduction, is trying to figure out how can we use it differently? How can we use it so they're still being familiar with the GridWorld and they're still buying into this, that it is a useful piece of code, not just this extra thing that the AP committee has tacked onto it, instead of just always dealing with bugs and always dealing with flowers. It's to get that variety so they don't get bored, but they do learn the code and see the purpose in a larger piece of software. Yeah, I think there's that balance too. I'm not sure. Yeah. And that is something to balance, right? Do you use it as an intro? Do you use it as a reinforcement? When basically introducing GridWorld, I think you have to treat it as GridWorld itself, right? You have to let them click on things and show it. But there are aspects such as function, calling functions, and you can use it a little bit on inheritance, and understanding this idea of what an object is, although obviously that's not the only thing you're going to be using to talk about objects. But the early introduction to GridWorld has to be about GridWorld. But I do think there are times that we can kind of use it, as you said, as a reinforcement early on. I forgot the one other thing that I did do for my students when I did it. I actually did print them, because some of my students are working from home, some didn't, some worked entirely in the lab, but I did actually put these kinds of things with the screenshots, like these kinds of screenshots, in a handout, and sent that home with them so that they could walk through it. I actually had screenshots for obtaining GridWorld here too, so that they could install it at home. Because obviously in the lab it's already installed, it's already unzipped, it's already added. But for my students who wanted to work on it at home, I actually did print them out worksheets, and had I remembered that before I walked in today, I would have uploaded them and sent them out to you. But for some reason that just spaced my mind. So I don't know how many of your students actually work from home, but that was something I tried to make sure that if my students worked from home, they had a very visual guide to getting GridWorld installed. So do either of you have any questions? I really feel like I tried to cover, like I said, I wanted to keep today really basic, just about introductions. And next week and following weeks we'll actually be diving into some code of some examples and how to use them in integration. But was there anything either of you had questions or comments about basic GridWorld introduction? Well, thank you both for coming. I'm going to go ahead and stop the recorder.